Hello, hello, aloha, everyone. Aloha, friends. Thank you for coming back for episode 2 of Tuesday Tips for Rockin' Relationships. And we're still going to be addressing some questions that are very valid in this age of coronavirus isolation. And thank you for being here. So let's jump in. I've got a couple of really good questions. The first kind of topic for this episode comes from a couple of coaching sessions that I've done over the last week, where the 5 love languages has come up again and again. So let me read one of the questions, and I'll tell you how the love languages apply. So it's a woman who's a new mom, and she asks, why do I have such a short fuse with my husband and other family members right now? So it's not just her husband, but for this woman and for a lot of us out there, you know, when we are exhausted, when we have a short fuse, when right now we've got all this added stress that normally we don't have. And maybe we're home a lot with our significant others, way more than what we're used to, right? So that adds to the tension and that builds. But the concept of the love languages, over the years, I've taught many, many people about it. I'm not certified by them in any way, but I have used that material for myself and to gain a deeper understanding in my relationships. And so I have taught and coached people about it a lot. It's a tiny little book. It's like that thick. I highly recommend it. It's an entertaining read. There's lots of stories, lots of really great ahas. It's called The 5 Love Languages. And the basic concept is, imagine like we have a tank inside of us, right? Like your car has a gas tank. Well, we've got a love tank inside of us. And when we are depleted, when we're frazzled, when our needs are not getting met, then that love tank is running dry, right? We're completely depleted. Think about if the gasoline tank on your car was empty, you wouldn't be able to get very far, right? So same thing with this love tank. You know, when it's completely empty and we're depleted, then it's really hard for us to be loving and patient and kind and compassionate within our relationships. So when we are completely just frazzled and have a really short fuse. So we can notice that we have a short fuse when we're snapping at people over things that we know are ridiculous, right? There's no reason to be upset over this or that, but our fuse is so short. We just get set off like that. Okay. And so what I recommended for this particular client of mine in our coaching session is that she check out the love languages, and you can go to the website, which is the number 5. So 5lovelanguages.com. And you can take a survey to see what your love languages are. And I recommend that the men take the one for husbands and the women take the one for wives. I like those tests better than the ones for the single people. You just answer a series of questions and you figure out where your love languages rank. And you really want to pay attention to your top 2 and your partner's top 2. Because often we feel like we're expressing love to our partners or even family members, people in our lives, and we're speaking in our language. And it's a language that they are not fluent in. And so that does not fill their love tank. And vice versa, if our partner or our loved ones are speaking love in a language that's not our language, then our love tank does not get filled. Okay, so the first step is just going and taking the quiz. It's free, it's confidential, and I just recommend just being by yourself when you take it. Answer it honestly so you can get the best results. Nobody's going to see your results. You're only going to see a ranking at the end of your top, where you rank on the 5 languages. And it can be so powerful to then come together and have a conversation with your spouse. I have another friend who I recommended this to over the last week, and he and his wife, long-term marriage, they got together and did this together. So it can be really fun. So approach it with playfulness, right? This is something that, gosh, if you read the book, you hear story after story of how marriages that were on the brink were brought back to life and more loving and connected than ever. So have fun with it. Get your partner to take the quiz and print out their results or jot down their results, and you do the same, separately, so you can just have your own space, and then get together and talk about it and talk about the results. And like I said, the book is a, tiny book, short read, entertaining, and it tells you how to approach someone else's love language, because if it's not your language, it's not going to come natural to you. But what's going to fill up your partner's tank is your partner speaking in your language, not theirs, and vice versa. So I have so many great examples of where I've used this in my life. So for me, my top love language is my number one is quality time. Okay. And that's why a long distance relationship would never work for me. I would be miserable with a long-term, long distance relationship, because I need that quality time, and I can't get that if, we're apart. And then my second one is words of affirmation. And the other ones are receiving gifts and acts of service, so doing things for each other, and physical touch. And for me, physical touch is always at the bottom. Sometimes I've even scored 0 on that, okay? However, many of my partners in the past, physical touch has been their language. And I remember I had a boyfriend who would always, stroke my hair like this, and I'd be like, what are you doing? Are you petting me? What's going on? Because it did not translate. He was feeling, what he was thinking as he was doing this was, oh, I love you so much, and I love being with you. And it was a very loving gesture from him, but I was not receiving it that way. It did not fill my tank at all. It was not my love language. And so what we discovered, this was a breakthrough that I had during this relationship, is that we needed to translate his language of physical touch into something that I could understand, which is words of affirmation. So we joked about, like, we needed to translate it into English, right? Really the spoken word. So when he caught himself doing that, or whatever, then he would, say out loud. I needed to hear the words out loud. I love spending time with you. I have so much fun when we're together. Whatever those feelings and thoughts that he was having, I needed to hear them. That was my language. And that changed our relationship tremendously. Now, with my husband, physical touch is also, I think, one of his top 2 languages, might be his number 1. And we both work together. Even before coronavirus, we don't work together. He's got his business, I've got my business, but we both work out of the home. So we're home all day together. And every time I walk past him, I just make it a point to touch him on the shoulder, or to just stop and kiss him on the cheek or the top of the head. And then I just keep walking. So I'm not interrupting his single focus in his work day, but I'm filling his love tank. I'm putting like another cup of fuel into his love tank every time I walk by him and just touch him and connect with him, because that's his language, right? It's important for him. Or when we're sitting on the couch, I always have my hand on, his arm or his leg, or I have my leg draped over him or something, some sort of little physical touch. Now, really, this does nothing for me, but that's the point. I need to speak my partner's language in order to fill his tank. So with this gal that I was coaching, first of all, she's got a baby in the home. She's a new mom, and she's exhausted, and she's frazzled, and she's at her wit's end. And she recognizes, I love personal accountability. She recognizes that she is snapping at people for no reason. It's that concept of her fuse is so short. And so I thought, probably she's running pretty dry on her love tank is running pretty dry. And so I introduced her to the 5 love languages, and she and her hubby are going to get together and do that. And it can just be so powerful when you start filling your partner's tank by speaking their language. So it's very simple. It's a very simple concept. It's not always easy. You're just going to train yourself to do different habits, right? And for the people you love, like, why not show them love in a way that they would understand? Because maybe we're trying to show our loved ones love and affection again, but it's in our language, so it's not filling their tank. It might be nice. Here's another example. I had a boyfriend once who one of his top languages was acts of service. And I worked a lot. I think I had 2 jobs back then. He was a business owner. He worked a ton, days, nights, weekends, the whole thing, solopreneur. And so quality time, right? I'm a quality time girl. And our time together was so challenged. And I would come home and he would say, oh, look what I did. I cleaned the house for you, or I made dinner for us, or something. Like, acts of service was a big deal for him. And I would receive that as, okay, that's nice. Thank you. But could we just spend some time together? Like, I was starving. I was starving for that time together because of our schedules and our situation. So he was trying to express love in his language and being so wonderful about it, but it wasn't putting any fuel in my love tank. So I hope that helps. The 5 love languages are awesome. I highly recommend it. Just have fun with it. And by the way, you can also notice this with your kids. How do your kids express their love to you? Are they always wanting to wrestle with you and grab you and tickle you? Maybe physical touch is a way that they receive love, because they're going to give it in the way that they would like to receive it, right? This is all a very subconscious level thing. And so what else? Are they always giving you gifts? Are they always making you things and giving you these gifts? Maybe receiving gifts is an important language for them. Do they want to spend time with you? Do they want to be with you, right? When they're little, right? Not when they're teenagers. The world changes when they're teenagers. However, but you can notice this in your kids. So what are their behaviors? How are they seeking attention from you? And that could be a clue as to what their love languages are. All right. So I hope that helps. Oh, I love the love languages. And when your tank is full, when your love tank is full and more, guess what? Then it's overflowing, and then you don't have that short fuse anymore, and you're able to be patient and be loving. And when someone says something that would normally trigger you when your tank was empty, you're going to find that it doesn't bother you so much. It's such a simple little thing, but it's so powerful. I invite you to try it. Oh, I just love it. I love it. Okay. We got a few more juicy questions here. Okay. This one, this is from a woman in her 40s. She asks, if a man says he loves you, but he is not in love with you, and yet he is not leaving, is there any hope for a future? Or would this be a clue to bow out gracefully? Or is there any way to turn this around? Okay, so this can be tricky. With my mentor, in her 30 years of research and my 3 years now of research that I've been doing on these relationship topics, we find that for the most part, men are pretty literal and pretty direct. And if they say something like, I'm not ready to be in a relationship, just take them at their word. Like, they mean it. They're typically not trying to play games or, this is healthy men, okay? Not a narcissist or a sociopath or someone like that who is playing a game. And most men are healthy men, and most men will be very direct with what he's willing and able to provide, including being in a relationship. And so if he says he's not willing to be in a relationship, we really advise, take him at his word. Take him at his word. Now, this was a little different. She didn't say that he said that specifically. But you could ask, what does our future look like? What do you see in our future? And here's the tricky thing. We need to approach these conversations when we're coming from a good place. And it's so hard to do because when we are triggered, when that human normal survival instinct that I teach about, when that part of us is triggered and we're in the midst of what we call a cave woman attack or a caveman attack, oh, it's so hard to have these conversations, right? Because then the other person will feel defensive. They might need to protect themselves, and communication is just not good when either person is feeling defensive. So trying to have these conversations and ask these questions from a place of calm and centeredness and from a place of curiosity, so really just asking that person in this case, what do you see for our future? How do you envision our future? And if that question doesn't work, one of my favorite questions is, a couple of questions are like, oh, what do you mean by that? Or why is that important to you? Or tell me more about that. And really, again, coming from a place of curiosity, not coming from a place of criticism or anything that might sound attacking, because when the defenses go up, when the walls go up, then, loving communication can't take place. So really finding out, in this case, what does he want from the relationship? What does he receive from the relationship? What is he willing and able to give to the relationship? And these are hard questions to ask because you might not like the answers. There's always a possibility for that. So you have to prepare yourself for that. So we really have to know what our own needs are in life and in a relationship before we approach these big questions, if we're wanting resolution at the time of that conversation. Or maybe you have a conversation and then come back later after really reflecting on what is it that you want and need in your relationship. And would you be happy being in a relationship where you're being told that he's not in love with you? Do you want to be in an in-love relationship? There are so many dynamics that keep us in a relationship sometimes. And it can be hard. It can be hard to let go. However, really focusing and figuring out what your needs are and what you need from a relationship can help you get clear on whether or not this is the right person for you. So it doesn't mean that they're a bad person, but it might not be a good fit. If you don't have the same goals for a relationship or life or whatever, then it just might not be a good fit. Two good people, just the timing is bad or the goals are different. That's entirely possible. I have this little metaphor that I use. Sometimes, when someone's not ready to be in a relationship, they might want to have companionship with someone and not really have to invest very much. So maybe they don't want to invest feelings or time. They just want someone to hang out with, whatever that means to you, here and there when it's convenient, but without a lot of emotional heaviness and such. So it's really common to see this in both men and women after, the end of a long relationship. Maybe, hey, I want to have a friend with benefits or have some companionship, but without all of the heavy responsibility of a relationship and partnership. And that's fine. Like when we're in that stage, that's okay, as long as we're honest about that. And when men are honest with us about these things, ladies, we have to believe them, because we tend to think, well, what does he mean by that? And we want to analyze it and pick it apart. No, he means exactly what he said. If he said he's not willing or able to be in a relationship, or he can only provide this, this, and this, take him at his word and figure out if that's okay for you, if that's enough for you. Because when you spend time in a relationship not getting your needs met, again, your tank is going to run dry and you're not going to be happy with that long term. So figure out what your needs are. The metaphor I use for this type of very non-committal relationship is, it's like when someone wants to have a plant that they don't have to water or feed or take it. They want an artificial plant, right? It doesn't need sunshine or water, or maybe they just water it occasionally. It's an orchid or something. I don't know. But that idea of, yeah, I want to have this relationship that really doesn't require much of me, because maybe emotionally I'm not available, or physically or energetically I'm not available for whatever reason. So sometimes, and this is easier for men than it is for women, and that has to do with oxytocin, testosterone, and estrogen. So I'm not dishing on the guys. This is not a good or bad thing, right or wrong. This is not a judgment at all. But biologically, it can be easier for men to have this relationship of wanting a plant, which means like occasional companionship or whatever, and even going out and doing fun things together, but no commitment, no partnership, no responsibility. Because the reason why that can be easier for men sometimes is because testosterone negates the effect or dampens down the effect of oxytocin. And oxytocin is that bonding hormone, right? The love hormone, the love chemical. I don't know if I talked about this last week or not. I talk about this a lot. So when we have an orgasm, we release oxytocin. When we eat chocolate, we have oxytocin, and just cuddling and feel good, even hugs, like they say, I think a 17-second hug will release oxytocin. And so when that oxytocin is released again and again, then we start to form a bond with that other person. So oxytocin is that bonding hormone or that bonding chemical. Testosterone dampens the effects of oxytocin. Estrogen heightens the effects of oxytocin. So even if a woman is in just a casual relationship, no commitment, it's totally fine. If we're seeing that person too often, a couple times a week, more than just a couple times a month, and we're texting and we're talking, we're like pretending we're in a relationship, but we're really not, that creates, those oxytocin hits, and that creates that bond to be built. And then even when we just expected it to be a casual relationship, women, because of the effects of estrogen on oxytocin, we can end up feeling bonded much more quickly, much more easily than the men do, because men have such higher testosterone. So if you're in a relationship with someone who wants you to be a plant that they don't have to water or pay attention to, they just want to enjoy you when they want to enjoy you, but no other type of commitment or investment, you have to ask yourself if you're okay with that. And then when you can come from that place, have that conversation and ask those questions. But again, try to come from a calm and centered place and come from curiosity. Try to not make the other person wrong, because they have needs and they have capabilities that they are able to provide right now. And they have things that they're not able to provide right now. And you have needs and things that you can provide and things that you want out of a relationship. And things that you don't want. So really figuring out if you're both on the same page with that. So is it the second part of the question? Let me read here. Is there a way to turn this around? I mean, maybe. I don't know. For me, I don't know that I'd be happy being in a long-term relationship with someone who says he's not in love with me. But that's just me, and that's just what I would want long term. Yeah, it's going to require some difficult conversations and some soul searching on figuring out really what you need deep down, and what would make you happy. And so a good way to do that, you can do a journaling exercise and start with the sentence, if I had it all my way, ... And just describe what your life would look like, whether it's a romantic relationship or other parts of your life. If I had it all my way, and just really go off the deep end, total fantasize everything that you would love, and maybe have your partner do the same. If you're talking specifically about the relationship or parts of the relationship, have them do the same. If he had it all his way, how would a relationship look for him right now and moving forward? And just then see if you guys are on the same page or not. So the answer isn't always an easy one. However, You have to see if you're on the same page. So that's what I have for that. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Okay. And then we have another question from a married woman in her 40s with 3 young kids. How do you get your spouse motivated for projects around the home and or getting on the same page as you to complete tasks together? What's the best approach? So interesting. I just coached somebody on this as well this week. And I have a few different ideas. So we're all at home more, right? And there's lots of things that need to be done. And this is an opportunity. Like we can do the honey-do list and get some help from our spouse with, things around the house. So here's the thing, because this is from a woman, and I'll just assume that she's in a relationship with a man. Men and women are very different in how they perceive their environment. For women, we have a superpower called diffuse awareness, which means we notice everything. And men have a superpower called single focus, which is that high level of focus that they have. They literally can screen out things happening around them, sounds and other things in their vision. And women, and again, this is down to our brain structure. So this is science-based, and this diffuse awareness, we notice everything. So we notice everything in the house that needs to be done because it's all calling out to us, usually in a very judgmental and critical voice. Like, why haven't you done this yet? Why haven't you? If you were a better mother and wife, you'd be doing this. No. Well, tell that voice to take a chill pill. Don't let it shame you like that. I'm never in favor of that shame approach. However, we do notice all of these things around the house. And oftentimes men, because of their single focus, they don't notice all of the details like we do. Okay. And that goes all the way back to the day of the caveman and cavewoman. So again, we're modern day cave people with with our survival instincts and how these come into play. So one of the ways that one of my mentors in this material handles this is she is so fun. And at her house, she says it's like everybody loves Raymond, like there's all these guys in the house between her husband, I think her father-in-law, her brothers, everybody kind of comes and congregates and watches the game and hangs out a lot at their house. So she sees all of these things around the house that she could use help with that they don't necessarily see. And so what they came up with this system, and we want to come up with this together in partnership with agreement. We don't want to say, okay, look, this is what we're doing now, and I expect you to conform. That's not partnership. That's dictatorship. So you could approach it with, hey, honey, I heard this idea. Wondering if we could try it out and see what you think, and ask him what he thinks, right? Ask him that one question and then wait for him to answer. Quiet. Okay, so here's the idea. Here's what she does. She has like a notepad where she just jots down things that need to be done. Like, oh, the light bulb in the hallway needs to be changed. The garbage disposal needs to be fixed. It could be minor things. It could be major things. We need to move those bricks from the backyard over to the other area. So she just jots down the things around the house that need to be done that she could use help with. And she leaves that notepad in the kitchen. And the guys all know that it's there. And maybe they're watching a game or something, and then it's halftime. They can choose whenever they want. They can choose to wander into the kitchen and take a look at that list and go, oh, yeah, that'll take me 5 minutes. I can change that light bulb in the hallway. Let me do that right now. Boom. And he can just go do it. So it's not a dictatorship. It's a partnership. It's a beautiful tool, and just make it fun, and you can also, when your man helps you with something like that, you can give him points. Men love to play for points. You can say, good job, honey. You get 100 points for that. Even if they don't know what the points are for, it's okay. Like if your man is into sports, use that language, playing for points. You're number one. We're on the same team, that kind of thing. That kind of language can be very important. So that's one way. That's like a fun way. I love that as a very practical tool. And when you need to approach the conversation, so because men are always single focused, you want to arrange a time to talk about something. And so what that looks like is, hey, honey, I know you're busy. Can we talk about some projects around the home when you have time? Don't worry, you're not in trouble. I think it'll take about 15 minutes. When would be a convenient time for you? Okay, so you're asking him when would be a convenient time to talk. He can prepare himself for the talk. Let him know that he's not in trouble, because otherwise he's going to worry about that. So he might say, oh, I can talk to you right now. Maybe he was at a stopping point. Or he might say, you know what, I'll be done with this in about 20 minutes and then we can talk. Or he might say, how about tonight at dinner? Let's talk once I'm done working for the day, and let's talk at dinner. So then when it's time to have that conversation, thank him for that. Thanks for taking the time to chat about this, and give him some appreciation. Appreciate him for something that he does around the house, and have it be genuine. Okay. It's only manipulation if it's not genuine. When you start looking for something to appreciate your partner for, you can find it every day. Every day you can find several examples of something to appreciate about your partner and to acknowledge. So start with some sort of a compliment, some sort of appreciation, acknowledging, I really acknowledge how hard you work. I appreciate how hard you work all day for the family. Maybe you work hard too. That's okay. It's okay to give a compliment, right? So I really appreciate how hard you work. And what I would love to talk about is there are some projects around the house that need to get done. And I'm wondering how we can come up with a system to get them done that works for both of us. And you could talk about that notepad idea. You two could sit there and brainstorm together, make it fun. So keep it fun and lighthearted. So smile, tone of voice, all has something to do with it. So be happy, be playful. And maybe right there together, just brainstorm on like, okay, what are things that you would like to see done around the house? They might be big things, they might be little things. And so just start brainstorming and write everything down and do it together. Okay, so when we do it together and when we ask what the other person thinks or ask for their contribution, then it's not dictatorship, right? Then it's partnership. So coming from that place of partnership. And then talking about, well, who could do what and when could that be done by, just allow for some flexibility, allow for some space in there. Let me see if I've got the whole question here. Getting on the same page as you complete tasks together. So here's the thing. This is so common in human communication. What I'm thinking and even what I think I've communicated, I think that it's very clear and that it's very obvious, but it might not be. If I haven't very clearly and specifically spoken about what this looks like. So it could be, one of the to-do projects might be the backyard. So we need to get the backyard in shape, get the backyard in order. Well, unless we specify exactly what that looks like for us, then the other person, they might have their idea of what that means to get the backyard in order, and you might have a different idea. And so have that conversation, like, what does that look like for you? And here's what it looks like for me. And here's an idea I had. So it's not a mandate, it's just an idea. And I tell my husband that too. I say, when I come to you with an idea, I say, this is just an idea. It's not something that needs to be acted on, right? Because sometimes it might come across as a demand if we don't preface it with, this is just an idea I had. What do you think? So we want to ask their input too. What do you think? That's what makes it a partnership. And then look at the different tasks that need to be done. Draw out how you want the backyard to look. Do you want real grass or fake grass? Do you want some landscaping? Do you want to get rid of that tree or plant a new one? get real specific about that and come up with these ideas together. It can be fun to do that together. But when it's one person saying, I want this done, I want this done, I want this done, and I want it done this way and at this time, that leaves no room for partnership. So really come at it from a partnership place. And, the woman who asked this question, maybe she's got several ideas already of what needs to be done around the house. And maybe he has some ideas of what needs to be done too that she doesn't know about. So really brainstorming together in a very fun and curious way can be very helpful with that. All right, let me see if I answered that. And asking for the buy-in, right? Asking for, would you be willing to do these things? And maybe, depending on the work situation or depending on his stress level or his energy level, maybe he would rather hire somebody to do the backyard or whatever particular task, and maybe you didn't know that was an option. So just be open to all these different solutions. And here's the thing, ladies, men are natural born problem solvers. They naturally want to solve problems. However, often when we come to them with a problem, first of all, as women, we don't like to use the word problem because we feel like, oh, if I have a problem, then I am the problem. It's not true. Men love to hear I have a problem. They want to solve problems, okay? And I teach a whole class on this one too, the problem solving. So they love to solve problems, and oftentimes we will come to them with an idea and with all of the solutions. So a problem and all the solutions, when instead we should come to them and say, okay, we've got this problem, or we need to do something about the backyard. What are your thoughts on that? And let his solution-oriented brain come up with a bunch of different ideas, and then work together in partnership to agree on what you want to do there with the backyard, and then implement it. And how's it going to be implemented? And this part is someone whose job, and this part is whose job, and this part needs to be done first. So when could we agree to have that part done? So then the other person can do their part, just really clear communication. But again, come from a place of calm and centered and curious. I guess that's my mantra for today, calm, centered, and curious. And we see these with my coaching clients. I see these issues coming up more and more because we're all at home together right now, right? With this isolation, with coronavirus, we're all spending so much more time together. We're working from the home. So perhaps if someone is working and on business calls, there needs to be a certain level of quiet during the day. So it's an adjustment. It's definitely an adjustment for everyone. So it can create that short fuse. It can create those misunderstandings. And the two questions I invite you to remember whenever you feel your human normal instinct, that tension rising in your body, when someone is doing or saying something you don't like, step back and ask yourself, what if nobody's misbehaving? And what if there's a good reason for that? So if you can come from that place of curiosity with those questions and see what their point of view is, because we don't always verbalize it, right? Or we don't always completely verbalize it. So just see what their ideas are. So I hope that helps. And remember, it's about being in partnership. It's about being in partnership in that way and asking your partner, so what works for you? And when we need to have these conversations, does this approach work for you? Do you prefer something different? So again, ask one question and then invisible duct tape on the mouth and wait and let him answer. And when you bring him a problem, let him come up with some solutions. If you bring him a problem and a bunch of solutions, then what did you need to bring it to him for? If you already, now it's okay to have some of your own ideas and your own solutions, but what I'm saying is, let the other person have some ideas as well and some input. Otherwise, it just feels like a dictatorship instead of partnership. Okay, that's what I have today for episode 2 of our Tuesday tips on Rockin' relationships. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday at noon. Let me see. Here we have the information, well, that's the Facebook group if you want to watch it live in the Facebook group, or on YouTube, this is the link you can go to, youtubelive.barbarasalmeron.com. So Tuesday, noon Central Time. So I'm in Texas, y'all. So adjust for your time zone. Noon Central Time, both on YouTube and in my Facebook group, Empowered Relationships to End the Battle. And that's free for anyone to join. So feel free to find that on Facebook and join. And easier way to find the information is to go to one of my websites, empoweredrelationships.org, and click on events, or barbarasalmeron.com, click on events, and then go to the Tuesday event, and you will see all the information. When you open the event, you'll see the link where you can go and submit your questions, and the links where you can watch on YouTube or on Facebook, and a separate link where you can watch the replay on YouTube. So share with your friends. Thank you for being here. We maybe have some comments coming in. Oh, I have some friends watching. Hello, you know who you are. All right. So thank you so much. And feel free to comment below this video. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. That helps me out. But feel free to comment on either Facebook or YouTube, and I'll be happy to respond to those. Thank you so much. Aloha. Aloha.